A text confirming entry plus iHeartRadio info. Standard data and message rates apply. That's BANK to 200 200. This is the Ross Kaminsky Show. Now, Ross Kaminsky on Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW.
All right, it's 8:06, time to go to our VIP line, and my very special guest, Tucker Carlson, his new book, Ship of Fools. You know, years ago, Tucker and I were in high school in the same town, a mile or two apart from each other, in La Jolla, California, where certainly many of the people in the ruling class, who Tucker has a lot of things to say about in his new book, were certainly there. For those who don't know, La Jolla, it kind of became a little famous with Mitt Romney's house with the elevator for his car. Good morning, Tucker. It's great to finally have you on the show.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Before we jump into the book, I just want to get your thoughts on what we're seeing today with the Kavanaugh thing, and in particular, your thoughts about whether you expect that this disgusting spectacle will help Republicans in the midterm elections as much as I suspect it might.
Well, I think, Kavanaugh was probably not a naturally galvanizing figure for Republicans before this. Sort of middle of the road. I mean, lost in all of this is the fact that, Kavanaugh is no, right-wing activist or anything. But it's not really about Kavanaugh at this point when you have U.S. senators standing up and saying, you've been accused of a crime, prove you're innocent or you're guilty. I mean, that's grotesque. It's an inversion of our justice system, and it's a threat to all of us, liberals included. They don't care because their only aim is power. It's like whatever it takes. But conservatives understand what this means. It means the end to our justice system, and it scares the hell out of them, as it should. And so, yes, I think this will, if this doesn't motivate them, I don't know what would. And I think most Republican senators understand that Brett Kavanaugh is far more popular than they are. Nobody likes them. Nobody should. They're deeply unimpressive, almost every one of them. But they know that Kavanaugh is a kind of folk hero for standing up for these principles. And so they know they better get him confirmed or else they're going to suffer.
Yeah, I agree with that, of course. And I should have mentioned, folks, Tucker Carlson, of course, is the host of Tucker Carlson Tonight on Fox News. And I read, let me just share this, not to pat Tucker on the back too much, but Tucker Carlson Tonight has ranked first among cable news audiences in its 8 p.m. Eastern time slot every night since it debuted in April of 2017. Also, the average price for a 30-second commercial in Tucker's show is the most expensive of any primetime cable news show. As a capitalist, Tucker, congratulations.
I need a new contract. The secret about working at Fox is it's almost all Fox. The Fox viewers are very loyal. Fox has, 22 years of programming behind it. It's if you start thinking that like you're doing well at Fox because you're impressive, like you're an idiot. You're doing well at Fox because you work at Fox. That's the truth.
Well, you're kind of uncharacteristically humble this morning.
No, but it's actually true though.
But look, dude, when that job opened up, and I'm not going to go back there, but when that job opened up and they named you, I said on this show, Tucker Carlson's going to kill it there. I knew you were going to do well, and of course it helps to be on a network like Fox, but you do a great show. My daughter and my wife want me to ask you if you practice your facial expressions in the mirror before going on the air.
Unfortunately, those are entirely organic and authentic, and I've never watched my show. I never would. I hate seeing myself on camera, so those are totally real. And as one of my producers pointed out, you look like a golden retriever. All the mouth breathing makes you look stupid. And I said, well, I'm sorry. It's real.
Oh, that's hilarious. I also don't like listening to myself on the radio, and I don't like watching myself on TV.
Exactly.
All right, let's jump into your book, Tucker's new book, Ship of Fools. The cover is really interesting. A ship, the people you've got in the ship, you've got Zuckerberg, you've got Pelosi, you've got Maxine Waters, Bezos, Cocaine Mitch, who I think is actually doing really well this week. Bill Kristol, Really interesting. So before we get into the details, just talk about the concept "ship of fools." I remember my introductory philosophy, and as Steve Martin might have said, I studied Plato.
Very good. Well, and of course that is from, I think it's book 7 of the Republic. It is the allegory about, the people sailing the ship have no idea what they're doing, and you realize that you're captive to their ineptitude, and it's terrifying. And look, the book grew out of a really simple question: why did Trump get elected? Nobody expected it. I don't think I know Trump didn't expect to get elected, and obviously neither party leadership did, but he did. And so why? Whenever something unexpected happens, you have to ask yourself, why did this happen, and why didn't I see it coming? And nobody has. And instead, they've offered up both sides these kind of ludicrous explanations. It was the Russians, or, Trump is racist, and so are Americans, so they voted for it. I mean, it's so dumb. And the real answer, I think, is that Trump was a middle finger to the people running the government on the first Tuesday of November 2016. You've made all these really bad decisions. You haven't admitted it. You've never learned anything from it, and instead you're still blaming the population for the problems of the country. Right. And we're going to wake you up from your stupor by electing someone so shocking that you'll have to pay attention to what we're trying to tell you. And tragically, it didn't work. They doubled down, they retrenched, they sort of retreated into this fantasy world where, it's everyone's fault but theirs. And it just made me so mad I wrote this book.
There are a lot of great things in this book, but I got to tell you, one of my favorites, in part because I didn't expect it, was your absolute shredding of Max Boot. Oh my gosh, is that great. Can you tell my listeners who Max Boot is and just shred him a little bit on the air, please?
Well, I try not to be mean in the book as I try not to be mean in my life. Sometimes I fail, but in Max Boot, I didn't mean it personally. I've just known him for more than 20 years. And so I marvel at how Washington, as a city, as a series of institutions, promotes people who have failed at everything they've done. Now, I think Max Boot probably would be great at, I don't know, selling insurance or teaching interpretive dance at a community college. Or, there's probably things he'd be good at.
This is, by the way, folks, this is Tucker not being mean.
No, I'm not being mean. I mean, because I believe that every person has skills, okay? It's really, life is a matter of discovering what you're naturally good at and doing it, and Max never has. What shocks me, he's not alone in that. But what shocks me is how he has been consistently promoted. So Max's job is as, quote, a noted foreign policy expert. Okay, so you just sort of analyze his foreign policy counsel over the past 25 years, and it's not only wrong, in some cases insane, but it's been consistently proven wrong. So, the thing about foreign policy is you can sort of follow the results. I thought the invasion of Iraq might be a good idea at the time. It turned out not to have the consequences we predicted, and so you should probably change your assumptions based on the evidence, but he never did, and he keeps getting hired. So it's not even about Max. He's not the dumbest person in D.C. or the most evil. I hope I didn't suggest he is. But it's the system that looks at Max Boot's corpus of work and says, you know what, good job, even though you've been wrong about everything. And that's the same system that takes people who, came up with our Fed policy, which is let's bring interest rates to zero and make a small number of people super rich and penalize everyone dumb enough to save money. And that's really been a great, success in this country. What? No, it's nuts. And yet the people who did it have never been held to account for it. Yeah. And, why? That's my question.
And I think, you know this because you wrote the book, right? But I think you get into that in a very detailed, why aren't they held to account? Well, part of it is because normally the people who would hold other people to account are part of this same, what you describe as ruling class. And one of the interesting things about your book is that you're not just picking on Democrats. You look at the people who are in the boat, in the ship, on the cover of your book. There's Republicans in there too. There's Democrats, Republicans, business people. It is about not class in the economic sense necessarily, although there's some of that. It is about this division in society that not a lot of people think about.
It's totally right. I mean, it's totally right. And the reason is, look, it's really simple. It's not a Republican versus Democrat world anymore. despite all the sideshows you're watching. It's really about who's benefited. So most people in America are poorer than they were as an objective matter before the financial crash of 2008. Like, there's less disposable income, less savings. Everybody I know in D.C. is richer. So let's just stop lying. There have been winners and there have been losers. Not everyone has benefited. Some have been hurt, some have been helped. And that's the dividing line. So what you're really seeing is people trying to protect their own prerogatives, their advantages, their privilege, as we say. And by the way, it's exactly the same people who are always ranting about privilege. Jeff Toobin, who went to Harvard, is telling you you're too privileged, Mr. Unemployed Machinist in Cleveland. It's like, what? It's nuts. And so rather than have conversations about this, though, the left and the right to some extent makes it all tribal. So it's like, well, wait a second. Why do we tax labor at twice the rate of capital? Shut up, racist. Why are you importing all these people from Central America to undercut American wages? Shut up, racist. It's like, I don't want to have any more conversations about race or identity or tribe. I'm bored. I think it's destructive. I want to have a conversation about economics. Nobody will. Shut up, racist. It's like, don't you see what's happening? We are being told to be quiet. We are being smothered in propaganda to prevent the rest of us from asking honest questions about why the system is designed as it is. And the answer, of course, is that the people benefiting from it don't want to talk about it, because once you talk about it, they're exposed as the charlatans and ripoff artists they are.
You remind me of a question I want to ask you. I'm going to drift away from the book for a second and then come back to it. You, more than anybody I know on cable television, on any network, have guests who hold very different political opinions from yours. Some of your other colleagues at Fox tend to be conservative hosts with almost entirely conservative guests. You have a majority of liberal guests, and they keep coming back. Swalwell and the Rhode Island dude and all of these people, and I just love it. Why is it important to you, and why do you think it's better for your viewers that you do that rather than just going down the confirmation bias road?
Because I think it's better for the country to hear all sides. And I also, I believe in human autonomy. I believe people should be able to make up their own minds. I hate propaganda. I hate being forced to think something. And I think it's much better, and by the way, more productive in the end, to allow people to hear the evidence and decide for themselves. And I really believe that most people want to be rational. And of course, it's a tussle within all of us between our gut and our atavistic instincts, our tribal instincts, and our higher sense, our reason. I mean, all of us are fighting that battle every single day. But I do think people have the capacity for reason and for sort of logical assessments of problems. And, why not try to appeal to that, once in a while? I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of a 1970s liberal, actually, in a lot of ways. The book is I'm very pro-life, and I'm pro-God, and I'm pro-gun. And so, in some ways, I'm kind of, I'm not liberal, but in other ways I am. I believe in due process. I believe absolutely in free speech. I'm very skeptical of market capitalism. I hate war. And more than anything, I believe that people should be able to express their views. I really believe that. I'm not joking.
Yeah, and far be it from me to characterize you, but I wouldn't say you're as much a 1970s liberal as a 1770s liberal.
Well, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I'm very worried. Look, the thing that people, and I'm not for socialism at all because it doesn't work, but I'm also, and I think we should all be skeptical of the current form of capitalism practiced here, because the main problem with it is it destroys things by its nature. I've never really got the idea that conservatives, people who believe in continuity and tradition and, proven ideas and culture, custom, why are they embracing a system that by definition replaces all of that every 5 years? I don't understand. I don't know. I think it's more important to sort of have stable families than it is to have a new iPhone every year. I do. I don't know. Does that make me a bad capitalist or something?
Maybe. Yeah, and in fact, that conversation probably requires more bourbon than I have right now, because I think you and I would probably disagree a fair bit on that one. But I don't want to debate you on it right now.
But lots of people disagree with me, but nobody ever brings it up. So that's what bugs me. And watching these people who think they're revolutionaries, all these upper middle class douchey college kids, working at Apple, like literally competing to wear matching T-shirts in a depressing retail space and sell iPads and think that they're like part of the revolution. It's unbelievable to me. It's like, it's the most brainwashed group of people I've ever met. I'm fighting the man? Really? You're working for Apple? Dude, you are the man. Like, what is this?
Our very special guest is Tucker Carlson, host of Tucker Carlson Tonight, #1 show in its time slot. His new book, Ship of Fools. I got about 2 minutes. I want to get one more question in with you. Something that's been bothering both you and me for a long time. It's getting worse with every passing day. The willingness of the ruling class, Harvard, and everybody else who are the opinion makers in this country outside of Fox to clamp down on free speech in the interest of something like not hurting feelings or something like that. I got about 90 seconds. Go.
Just remember, it has nothing to do with feelings or the diversity imperative or any of that. It's all a lie. This is what happens when the people in charge are terrified that you're going to call them on their BS. They try to prevent you from doing it. That's exactly what's going on. And so we should remember that the second the regime tries to crush the expression of the people it rules, that's the moment before it falls. And they know it. Ceausescu, as he was being led to the firing squad, was bossing around his guards. They're totally lacking in self-awareness. They know on a gut level, though, it's all coming to an end, and they're trying to make you be quiet. But, don't. Don't ever cave to their demands that you shut up.
Real quick, do you think, let's say, a Harvard sophomore who's telling people to shut up is being manipulated in terms of that being a power grab by the left? Or do you think they really know that it is about making the other side shut up and not just, I feel triggered or hurt? Kids these days.
I mean, the thing about children is they're really under the sway of adults. It's like, Let me just say, I'm not against elites. I'm just against unimpressive ones. And the fact that your average Harvard student believes his professors shows what a mindless little lemming he is. Like, our system produces conformity and dumbness. Like, our system needs to be revised. Whatever we're doing is not elevating the most impressive people to positions of leadership. I'm sorry, it's not.
And we'll leave it there. Tucker Carlson, whose new book, Ship of Fools, leading the way toward that revolution. Thanks, Tucker.
Thanks a million, Ross.
This report is sponsored by Staples.
Traffic still bad up around I-270 West, where it's closed at I-70. That fatal car crash investigation